blast off. Hello there and welcome everyone to another episode of the Trusted Advisor Show. My name is Rob Jacomen. I'm your host today, and I'm actually joined by my co-host, Devin Walsh. How you doing, Devin?
Not too bad, man. I'm ready for another hot topic of yours today.
Excellent. Again, that is true. This is going to be another hot topic. You guys are in for a real treat because I've got a very special guest on today. We have a very special guest on today that we are super excited about. I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of value for anyone who is listening or watching today. And we have Matt Bralove, who is a CPA with Zone Accounting. And we are extremely honored and blessed to have you on the show, Matt. And I know, as we were just talking earlier, you have such a unique business model. And, you know, I've worked with so many different CPAs over the years and so many different types of firms, everything from big ones to, you know, the small mom and pop shops to everything in between. And, you know, what you were sharing with me is so unique and I think is so different. And it's so refreshing to hear that because, you know, this is the Trusted Advisor Show. A CPA is one of the most trusted advisors for a business. You know, as we're looking at the fortress of relationships, you play such a major role in the growth, the development, and the sustainability of a small business. And so, you know, that's why we want to have you on the show, and we're extremely honored to bring you on. So welcome.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for having me, and thank you for that intro, because that's the ultimate to walk into, right? The trusted advisor, somebody that people really look at as the person to be in the room. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And it's going to be, this is going to be jam-packed with value. So, you know, we're going to just dive right in. And Devin, I know you have a question that you'd like to ask Matt, which we always put guests on the hot seat and ask them a really pertinent question just to kind of kick things off. It's kind of fun. So go ahead.
It's always
go
my
ahead,
favorite
Devin.
question. So we love getting to know the people outside of the business, especially in our practice, Dave Walsh. In the onboarding process, you always want to know who the people are outside the numbers. So we like to do that same thing here. So tell us one thing about you that's not in your professional bio. That's something that people might not know about you.
Devin, I love that question. So I am a CPA by trade, but I am the worst doctor you would ever want. And people say, what, the worst doctor? Okay, so I didn't go to med school. I'm not officially licensed. Don't hire me for anything like that. But I did go to college. I was a pre-med major for 3.5 years of college. I've taken, I don't know how many hundreds of hours of lab courses. I am so close to knowing nothing, but I've spent hundreds of hours of doing it. So people ask me, what are you doing? Why are you an accountant? I'm sure we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
I am a half inch away from having gone to med school, and I'm super glad that I didn't.
Wow, that's fascinating, going from pre-med into the numbers all day. So maybe let's talk about that a little bit. So talk about polar opposites. You know, how do you go from going pre-med, possibly becoming a doctor one day, to almost being a doctor for businesses, we can almost call it. So how did that transition happen?
Yeah, so almost by accident, right? So I went to school pre-med. I thought I was going to be a doctor, and I did that because it was a challenge. It wasn't because I was interested in medicine, and that's why I'm glad I didn't do it, because the passion wasn't there. But where did the switch happen? I got to my junior year. I took my first intro to accounting class, and I realized I actually like this stuff. And the question is, how do you go from being potentially a physician to being an accountant? They're both helping people. Yeah. Right. One is a fancy title. That's the accountant. The other is boring, and that's the doctor. But I mean, when you think about it, what we're doing every single day, we're diagnosing. We're getting in, we're asking pertinent questions. I'm looking for history. I'm looking for background. I'm looking for tools. Doctors use medicine and science. I'm using accounting theory. I'm using practical advice, but I'm diagnosing an issue. I'm treating not the symptom, but the underlying person or the underlying business. So though I didn't expect to go here in the conversation, I'm glad you brought it up, because this is treating the underlying business owner and helping them grow to have a healthy, successful business or whatever gain they're looking for. That's what we're here for. Medicine, it might be making you live longer. I'm trying to make your business live longer, but have a really good life while you're living longer.
Love that.
That's awesome. Yeah. So that's actually a great segue, Matt. You know, as you're as you're talking about the underlying root cause, and because you brought up something really interesting, and I think this is where we often go with being part of a trusted advisor relationship with a client. It's really our jobs to help fix problems and solve problems and really create that value for our clients. So what are some, if I'm a small business owner, what are some things that what are the most common things that you notice in your area of practice when you're working with a business where there is that need to address an underlying root cause of something, a problem, an issue? Maybe it's, you're finding newfound profitability that maybe didn't exist before. And now you're like, hey, I'm showing you all these amazing savings and this is going to, boost your bottom line. What are some common things that businesses could be on the lookout for?
Yeah, that's a great question. To me, every business is unique, but only to a small extent. The underlying core, we're in business for profitability. We're in business for potentially growth, for sustainability, for creating that freedom, that flexibility that we want for the owner, for our employees, for our clients. So when we think about what is something common to every business, no matter how good you are as an operator or owner of a business, we're all flying blind. And the reason I say that is people think they know about their business. They think they know their numbers. They've done it before. They've seen how much cash they take home. They see what their bottom line on their profit and loss statement shows, but they don't know. What if I were to make one tweak differently? What would that have done? What if we were to try a different avenue, whether it's changing your pricing model, open a new location, hire a different type of employee, offer a different service offering? The reality is people are doing what they've done and they believe themselves to be successful. And oftentimes that's the case, but there's no check and balance. So what I do and what my team at Zone Accounting does is we respectfully challenge your assumptions. We go back for every client and we say, okay, you made $1 million this year. What if you could have made $2 million? Or you made $2 million, but you're not happy. What if we made $500,000? Would we be happy? What if I made 30,000? Can I support my lifestyle and have the best life ever? So most of our businesses, and that's who we serve, are small growing businesses and their owners. They believe what they know. They don't know what they know. And so what is really powerful is to go back and actually be able to test assumptions, show them with numbers. And Rob, as you mentioned, our big focus is profit. If you are not walking home with taking a real salary, real profit, and having your business pay your taxes, there's something that we can do even better than you're doing already. And that's the fun of what we do, right? That's the puzzle we're trying to put together, is how do you maximize without creating more hours in your business, without creating more stress on your shoulders? And I think every business owner can really, really relate to that, because it's never enough. We've never made enough money, worked too little, and had no stress. And if we can find one or two or three of those factors, we've got a perfect triangle.
One thing I'm really just struck by is something that you said I've never heard before, and I want to go a little deeper into this part. You said one of the things that we do is we respectfully challenge assumptions. Man, I have never heard that before in the way you put it. So what kinds of assumptions are you guys challenging where a business owner, like you said, they may not know, but you guys come in and you're like respectfully challenging assumptions? Give us an example of that.
Yeah. Well, so my first thing, and this is very unorthodox for an accountant. Accountants love numbers. I hate numbers. If I see another number or a tax return, it's the worst day of my life, right? My best day is when I'm in front of people actually connecting and talking, because that's what we're doing it for, right? It's that collaboration, that connection, and that drives a successful business. So how do I challenge people? The very first question I ask a prospect when they come to my door, they give me a copy of their tax return. I'm going to turn it over at my desk and refuse to look at it. I'm going to ask them, are they happy? And you can tell not from their answer, but the look on their face, are they actually happy? They're going to lie to me and say yes. But deep down, you can see it in their eyes. If they're not happy, I don't care what those numbers show. I care how we're going to get that happy factor. Because when we get that happy factor, we've got fulfillment, we've got profit, we have employee retention, we have company culture, we have happy spouse and children. All those things come with it. So once I know the happy factor, then we figure out what is stopping that happy factor. And usually the assumption is, if I could just find good people, I would be so much better. And some of the limitation is yourself. You found good people, but you're not letting them be great people. Sometimes we're just not making enough money. Maybe you're making plenty of money, but you're spending it in the wrong ways. Maybe it's my customers don't understand what I do. Well, the moment they don't understand, it's because we haven't explained the value that we add. So we start with a happy factor, then we spiral off in any direction that it takes us. But we challenge. When I say respectfully, sometimes I do that playfully. The reality is you're paying me to kind of be a jerk to you. And people are like, I'm not paying you to be a jerk. That's why I got married. No,
that's true.
You're paying me to challenge you to get better. And if all I do is be your yes person and say, Devin, you're running a great business. Everything is fine. You saved as much tax as you're supposed to. You paid as much tax as you're supposed to. No, let's push that. Let me really get in your face. And I say it respectfully because at a certain point when that discomfort is there, I stop. But then we revisit it the next time. I take you to your limit and then we pull back and we constructively. It's like the military. I break you down to build you back up. It sometimes is in one session. But if we're not crying happy tears, sad tears, or scared tears, we're not really feeling what it's like to be a business owner who's really exploring the process of working together. So I'm hoping for happy tears, but it doesn't start there always.
Man.
I love that, Matt, because I think so many business owners think when they start a business, it's all going to be fun and games. My life's going to be so happy. I hate it working for somebody else. It's going to be so easy now, and I'm just going to sail off into the sunset and be my own boss. And it's not like that, because now all of a sudden you're responsible for other people and their livelihood and hiring, firing, and you maybe not making as much money as somebody else, paying your employees sometimes more than you, or whatever it is, and all the up and downs that own the business. So, I think we've all met a lot of business owners out there that, say they're doing great and happy, but probably miserable inside and saying, man, I wish I just want to sell this thing and, don't have all the responsibility anymore.
You're hitting on such a great point, right? Most of us start our own business because we don't like working for other people. We are the worst bosses we're ever going to have because we hold ourselves accountable. There is no one else. I don't care how great your team is. I hope you have a great team. But the reality is it stops with you. Every tough decision, every hiring, firing, profitability conversation, how long do we keep the business? What do we offer to people? There's only one person to blame when it goes poorly, and it's not your team. It's always inward. So that stress of I hate working for other people, man, you're going to hate working for yourself. Yeah. But is it going to be rewarding? More than ever, if you do it the right way.
Yep.
Man, I mean, Matt, it sounds like it between all of us and anyone who's listening and watching, it does come across as somewhat arrogant. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It's almost like I can just see you coming into someone's business and say, and having that attitude. Like I look at that as like tough love. It's tough love that sometimes as a business owner, entrepreneurs, they have such big egos, and rightfully so. Like that's not necessarily a bad quality. It's a good quality to have, but to have someone like you come in there with that kind of attitude and be like, hey, listen, you're paying me to be upfront and honest with you about your situation. And I love what you said. You said the happy factor. No one I've ever talked to in your industry has ever even led with that as their strategy or approach when working with clients. I think that is phenomenal. I absolutely, I'm actually going to pirate that.
Feel free to.
And incorporate that into my process, because I use a powerful question too. And I like to share this with everybody and get your thoughts on it, Matt. The one question I ask when I sit down with a new prospect is, rather than telling them about how great I am and all the amazing things I can do to help them, and that's going to come in time. But what I like to say is, listen, let's say you and I decided we're going to do business today, right? We've made a commitment. We're going to do business together. Now, what I want you to do is imagine, let's project out 3 years from today. And we are sitting here having the same conversation. What would have had to happen over the course of the last 3 years for you to feel like this has been a successful relationship? And then I shut up and ask that question. I'm going to tell you, since I started using that as part of my approach, it has been a game changer, because what happens is it opens up the floodgates and takes down that barrier that a lot of business owners put in front of them, and just allows them to be, to share candidly, this is what my goals are. Underlying everything, I may appear on the outside that this is the appearance or the perception, but underneath, this is what I'm looking for in a relationship. So I'd love to have your take on that.
That's so powerful. I love that question. The reality is, and I think we can all agree, what we do as business owners is focus on today, tomorrow, maybe the end of the year, maybe the next quarter. We're looking at metrics that we can control. And we're sometimes either we don't allocate time for it or we're afraid to allocate time to the future. And I don't mean, well, okay, how much money am I going to make? No, what is it actually going to look like? Who is on the team? What is it? What are we doing? How are we doing it? How's it going to feel when we're doing it? And to pause in a prospect meeting and not go for a sale, but instead go for that moment where you say, what does it look like? A successful relationship, what is that going to be in 3 years? That's giving that prospect permission to daydream. How freeing is that? When we were kids and all we did was daydream. Now we're business owners and all we do is not sleep at night. What a great thing is to get back to that. And so I love it. I'm going to borrow this, like use your word pirating. I'm stealing this from somebody else who's a very tremendous sales consultant. The question that they ask is, in 10 years, what are you going to remember from our relationship together? And it's not how quickly did I process something for you or did I return your phone call? It's truly the big life-changing memorable moments. Did you make me feel comfortable? Did you make me informed on the thing I needed to know? But most importantly, did you impact my life? And I think, Robert, your question is spot on. 3 years from now is enough of a forecast out to know how that's going to feel. So kudos to you for doing that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, I love what you just said. It allows somebody to get out of the present moment and think about their future and what they're really looking for. Because I think a lot of times I'm even the same way. Devin, you probably feel the same way sometimes too. Sometimes we don't always know what we're looking for. Like we might be chasing one thing, but one thing we're chasing, whether it be profit or revenue or, your next big sale, maybe that's not the thing we should be chasing.
Yeah, people put the blinders on sometimes and just like take off the blinders and open up to different ideas. And, I think people get so stuck in today and they don't plan for the future. They don't have that vision for the future. And, just take off those blinders, and because that great opportunity might not even be something you're looking toward doing. So I totally agree.
One of the questions I ask my clients, and I don't know if I can even answer it for myself, when is enough enough? When is it enough profit? When do we have enough clients? When have we worked enough for the year? Right? A lot of people are like, oh, it's October. I can still get a lot more business closed before now in December. What if you're already where you need to be? What are we really aiming for? And I think this is what we're all three dancing around. The same thing is, how do we get to the point where we feel satisfied? And if we're measuring satisfied by what other businesses in our field do, or what we see on Shark Tank, or what we've read about for people going public in companies, where our primary competitors, we're never satisfied because they're not satisfied either. We really need to focus on what is the goal. I don't care what your goal is, right? It could be I want to play golf every single day, or it could be I want to be at my desk because that makes me feel the happiest. We need to define that goal, define a plan to get to it, and then actually use metrics to measure it. And so to me, I love this conversation of when is enough enough? If you don't define it and measure it, it's never enough. And that's a pretty hollow feeling.
And in the world we live in today too, Matt, I mean, that's a spot on. Just think of like social media. People are just always just chasing. And same with business owners. Like you said, we see next competition or the next shiny object, whatever it may be. And it's like, oh, we need to be better. And it's not enough. It's like you start at zero and next day you're a $20 million business. And is that enough? Is it bigger than you ever thought it was? Maybe not. Maybe you want to go public now. Once you go public, and now I want my share price to be this. And so I love that question. And it's a tough one to answer.
I challenge that $20 million business to wonder, what if I was a $200,000 business?
Yeah.
Right. So all of us started out and we're like, let's grow. Well, and I became this $2 million, $10 million, $20 million business. And I might be bringing home $50,000 a year because I'm paying it to everybody else. What if I'm that $200,000 business with no employees, no help, and it's just me, and I'm bringing $180 home? Maybe I'm more satisfied working less. But it doesn't look as pretty, right? It's this factor that, and I think this is the hard part to admit. This is why I tell people I respectfully challenge them. The picture you're drawing could look really, really pretty, but it's not of you. You're drawing your neighbor. You looked over your neighbor's desk and drew their picture because that's what you think is the right answer to go for. Yep. Stop trying to be somebody else. Yeah. Be the person you are. And if that's working for you, I don't care how big your company is or how small it is. I don't care if you're bringing home $40,000 or $400,000. It can work. And if you're feeling good about it, stop looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
We
You know what's
literally had that
interesting?
same conversation, Rob, with Ryan. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I think Rob texted both of us and he was just like, would you guys rather have a $10 million company making $400,000 a year or $1 million company making $400,000 a year? And I said, $1 million company all damn day. Because all the headache and for making the same amounts, you know.
So I remember that's exact, Devin, you and I were just thinking the exact same thing, because as you were sharing that, I was thinking of that time. I asked both you and Ryan, I said, again, talking about that, would you rather have a $10 million company with 100 employees and, you know, you're making a good living, you know, it's going fairly well, or would you rather have $1 million business where it's more of a virtual, you know, maybe you have a virtual office, you have a few VAs, virtual VAs and, or virtual assistants, and you don't really have a lot of people to manage, but yet you're still making the same amount. Yeah. Gary V talks about this. And I know a lot of the viewers and listeners, a lot of you have probably heard his materials and it's just like regurgitated over and over. But something that's so true with him is, would you rather be making, you know, $150,000 a year and being miserable, or making 80 and being happy?
Yep.
And that's the big, you know, that's the thing where I didn't even imagine that our conversation would go down this road. But you know what? That's a lot of the conversation that's going on in people's minds right now is centered around happiness. Because of what we've went through the last 9 to 10 months, you know?
So we work with a lot of high performing real estate agents. Some of our clients are some of the best known real estate agents in Maryland. And when we talk to them, there's this conversation that we have, because I usually get introduced to the young proteges, the new ones coming up. And the conversation is, would you like to, just like you're saying, would you like to be the most well-known real estate agent in Maryland, where your face is on every sign and you're all over TV and you're making good money? Or would you rather be making great money and nobody's ever heard of you? And it's an ego thing, right? And this is not a judgment. Some people are like, oh, hell, I need to be the guy or the woman. Cool. Then we do that. A lot of people are like, I don't care. That's me as an accounting firm owner. I don't care if you've never heard my name. The only people who need to know my name are my family, my close friends, and the clients I'm impacting. If the person who's not my client hasn't heard of me, I don't need them to. That's not the happy factor. That's not the success factor. So I can answer that question easily. Give me the small controllable business with less stress, and I don't care about the money nearly as much. Give me the big fancy business, I'm running from it, because that doesn't fulfill me. But it's okay when the other way works, as long as you know that that's who you are. But you better know it ahead of time, because the person who's the opposite trying to get the first one, it's a long path to get to nowhere. And that's a scary place to be. A lot of years invested to not be happy.
It's so interesting. I just want to share one thing real quick here is, you know, I'm part of a men's group, spiritual guys getting together, just talking about life and business and just, you know, just being candid and just sharing with each other. You know, it's almost like just having like your own spiritual board of directors, where it's like we all have the same goals and mission of making a bigger impact and being purposeful. Matt, tell me how, like, are those also the kinds of conversations you're having? Because one of the things that came up in our meeting, we had a meeting this morning, is being more purpose-driven as opposed to, now I know we talked about profit. We'll get to that.
Sure.
But maybe being more purpose-driven as opposed to being so profit and revenue-driven. So do you have those conversations as part of your process? So
there's two distinct types of clients that come in my door, or through my webcam at this point. The first type of client is more of the old school approach, and they are numbers driven only. That's usually the gray hair, no hair type person. Depending how the lighting is here, I'm becoming that gray hair, no hair person, so I'm not judging. But the other half are the younger folks, and that doesn't mean everybody says millennial. That's not necessarily millennial. It's the younger mindset folks, and they're coming in and they're saying, I want to donate X percentage of my profit to charity, or I want to impact people's lives, or I want to make some type of fulfilling decision, whether it's money driven or not. And the reality is those conversations are coming organically. I'm not leading the way to those conversations, but they organically come out. It's interesting with what you're asking. I love what you're saying with the spiritual board of directors of the concept. I think Devin and I, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking and we mentioned a concept called the family board of directors. where a lot of people bring in industry experts. I want you to bring in your family experts. And what I mean by that is your husband or wife or partner or your children or close relatives, people who know you the best. When you make a business decision, don't just go to the accountant, to the attorney, to the banker. Go to your family board of directors. Go to your kids and say, look, if I do this, it's going to be more time away from your soccer game, or we're not going to be able to go camping, or whatever it might be. Is that okay with you? And if the answer is no, you have to weigh that factor in much, much more than the how much will I make conversation, right? I don't want to get too fatalistic, but everything is finite. Our time with our spouse, our time with our kids, our time on this earth. If we're not finding fulfillment in something, whether we're finding it through making money or something potentially much more important, which doesn't have anything to do with money, we're not looking at the right metrics. So I love the spiritual board of directors combined with this family board of directors, because this fulfillment factor goes far beyond profit. Now, I will say profit allows you to make those more meaningful impacts. The more money you have to spend, the easier it is to do. Yep. But you can be a broke company still making a big impact. Hence, a lot of nonprofits make very little money and are making huge impacts. So it comes up, but it's more organic as part of the conversation.
It's awesome.
The other piece I throw out here is a lot of people think, and again, because it's my industry, I take offense to it, that accounting is boring and it's number driven. And that when I go in, it's like going to the dentist, right? It's going to feel like pulling teeth. There are tons of really quality accountants out there who do a great job of looking in the rearview mirror, telling you all the technical tax code tips, finding you that last penny to save, and they do a great job. And if that's your style, there's plenty of great options in home. Where the world that I live in, those things are tedious, right? I do save money. I save clients a lot of money all year long. That's not my focus. I want to enjoy working with clients. And that doesn't feel like going to the dentist for either of us. I literally don't want to pull teeth. So when I say I respectfully challenge people, we have these spiritual type conversations, this family board of director type conversation, it's not for everybody. And I think the key I want to get across is that's okay, right? The people that resonates with, they're a great fit for what I do. But that people who are closed off to it because that just hasn't worked for them, or they don't feel comfortable, or they've got people in their lives who are already fulfilling that role, that's cool. My goal is not to push the conversation on them, but find the people that want to have that conversation. And I think it's when you go fishing in a pond, I don't need to catch every fish. I need to catch the right fish. And so my pond is filled with the right fish. And I think that's a fun part of being a business owner. When people start out, they think, oh, I need to take every client on. I need to charge this amount of money. You need to find the right people, because when you find the right network and the right prospects and the right people spiritually or whatever it might be for you, man, that's a magnification factor that is, I don't even know how to count that, because you can go from 1 + 1 = 2 to 1 + 1 = 1,000,000 really fast if you surround yourself with the right people. So I love this conversation because you guys are those types of people. And I can, as we're talking, it's coming out organically. I promised everybody listening, this wasn't scripted. We truly are just talking.
It's true.
It's amazing that when you find people who get that mindset, this isn't boring. This isn't something where it's just tedious to sit there and have a numbers conversation. It's a vision and goals conversation. It's a fulfillment conversation. It's the happy factor. And that's what gets me. I get up in the morning early for that. Normally I sleep in, but when these conversations come up, I'm up early.
It's awesome,
I love that. And it goes into one of our favorite words, which is disruption. It goes, it's the whole reason Ryan and I started our business is because we saw how other financial planners did it and how the industry did it. And we're like, let's disrupt this thing. There's a better way to do it. So I want to ask you that. So, coming an accountant and now creating Zone, being a business owner and an accountant. So what made you want to disrupt that industry? I know you touched on a little bit.
Sure.
But, talk about disruption a little bit and like what you guys truly are doing to disrupt the accounting industry. So I know when we first met, you and I talked about that.
Right.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. And I love that question. I tell people that I was the greatest employee and the worst employee all in one. And what does that mean? I was a go-getter. I was always working overtime. I was for the team kind of guy. I was doing everything I could. That also made me the worst employee because I would challenge everything. Every time there was a decision on leadership or direction or management or vision, I say, well, what if and why? And I realized that pisses people off. And that's okay.
So
right?
True.
But I wasn't in that role, right? I was some lowly staff person asking the owner of the company, well, where do we see this going as far as whatever it looks like? They don't want that from me. They had their people. So after working at a small firm, a very large firm, and a medium-sized firm, I realized it wasn't the firm size. It was the firm mentality. So when we started Zone, my partner and I launched just about 4 years ago. And the whole goal was to turn the public accounting industry on its side. Stop looking backwards, stop citing code sections, stop trying to prove how smart I am, and try to make you better, right? So our whole business model is all about collaboration. I work with people who want to grow a business. That doesn't mean they have to grow a big business. But if they already know the answers or think they know the answers, I'm not a good resource for you. Now, that doesn't mean I know the answers either. What we do as our model is very collaborative. So it's transparent in how we price. You know what you're going to pay before you pay it. You are not going to be surprised by when we talk to you and how we talk to you and what we talk about. What you're going to be surprised about is how it feels when we're talking. Because all of a sudden it goes from I hired an accountant to somehow I got a business partner and this guy's not even taking equity in my business. Right? This is the fun conversation, because when you get somebody that you can really connect with and relate to, and that goes for hiring your accountant or any advisor. And me, when I'm selecting my prospects, we're very selective on who we work with because those conversations are so powerful. So how are we doing to disrupt the industry? Everybody does tax returns. That's a given. Everybody knows the law, pretty much. That's a given. It's how do we deliver that conversation in a meaningful way? So my goal, I tell people, we're like the Planet Fitness of accounting firms. It's a judgment-free zone. You're going to come in and you're going to share something, and it's going to be ugly. Either you did something wrong, or you were thinking about doing something wrong, or we discovered that you could have done it a lot better way. So what? If you knew the answer, you wouldn't have needed me today. You probably needed me yesterday, and that's okay. We didn't know each other. So the way I disrupt the accounting industry is to not be the accounting industry. I don't go in there trying to find you every last dollar. It happens organically. I don't go in there to cite code sections and tell you how smart I am. Maybe I'm not smarter than you. That's okay. But what I'm going to do is, like I said, respectfully push you, challenge assumptions, and we're going to walk away with some goal accomplished that may not even be financial. And you're going to know exactly what you were paying for it, when you were paying for it, why you were paying for it. And you're going to realize that value exceeds so much more than the check you wrote or the credit card you swiped. That value you can't count because it's going to change your mindset. And when that happens, that's how I've disrupted my industry and help positively disrupt my clients. Because I think disruption is the key. It's not about negative or positive. Both are welcome.
Yeah. No,
that's amazing. Matt, just where did you learn? Is that something that evolved over time? Like, where did you learn that mentality? Because you are so, I'm going to tell you right up front, you're really unique. You have a really unique perspective that I have not. It's fresh, it's new, and I think it's so needed in our industry, even our industry. And I'm looking at,
sure.
When I talk about working with Devin and Ryan, we're really in the financial services industry. I handle commercial insurance. Mm-hmm. Those guys do financial planning, advising, and so many other things. But we're kind of all in the same, we all have the same mentality, which is we want to position ourselves to be a true partner. This is the way I approach things. I want to be your true partner in helping you to manage risk and make a positive impact on your business and your life. Because if I can help you make a positive impact on your business, it's like the ripple effect. It's like when you drop a rock in the water, what happens to the water? It's like ripples, and it goes on and on and on and never stops. The things that you are able to do to help add value to someone's business has a huge ripple effect, not only on them and their family, but also all the employees of that firm or that business, because their families are impacted in a positive way by the work that you do. So just where did you get that mentality is basically what I'm getting to.
Two answers. If I'm being honest, it's all BS, right? And people are like, what? You just told me your life. What I mean is that this is not something that I've studied or tried to do. It's something that just feels natural. For the people that this resonates with, they're my people. For the people who are like, what the hell are you talking about? That's okay. You're just not my people. That doesn't mean we can't get along and be friendly and professional, but I'm not you shouldn't hire me because that's not how I work. So where did I learn this? This is actually really quick and interesting story. I was probably the wealthiest, poorest family growing up. wealthiest, poorest, what do you mean? My father was an independent salesperson. He made a great living, but I didn't know it. I thought we were poor, right? I didn't think we were looking for our next meal, but I thought every dollar counted, and we would shop with coupons and try to find the sales and everything we could. And I realized my father didn't have a healthy approach to money. He didn't have a good relationship with money. He made a good amount and saved it all. And then he had actually an eye disease that made him so he was almost legally blind. He was a traveling salesperson and he could no longer travel to do sales. Well, this is pre-internet days, so you really can't do much with cold calling somebody and try to sell them restaurant equipment. You've got to show them the product. He went from making 6 figures in the 80s to making minimum wage working at Sears, Montgomery Ward, JCPenney, places like that. He was making $7 an hour. At one point, my twin brother, my father, and me were working at the same department store, making the same dollars per hour. And what I realized was money doesn't define the person. Work ethic does, approach does, but fundamental understanding of how your money impacts your life is so meaningful. When I look at my father, he made a lot of money and felt guilty spending it. I felt guilty earning it. And people are like, what do you mean you feel guilty earning it? I feel like because I thought I was poor growing up, I didn't belong in a conversation with people who had money. I had no place talking about how to make money with people who already knew how to do it. I didn't live the country club life. I didn't go to fancy restaurants. These are the things that felt so unnatural to me. And so when I got into the business world, I didn't think I belonged in the companies I was working for because everybody else seemed to know what they were doing and I didn't. So I developed my own style. I stopped trying to replicate. I stopped trying to prove that I belonged. I knew I belonged, but I didn't feel it inside. So when I started talking, I just started sharing emotions. And that really confused people. Who's this 20-something-year-old, this nerdy accountant talking about emotion? Dude, talk about numbers. Everybody else had the numbers market cornered. I could talk about emotions and how they led to your numbers because I had the emotional tie to how that felt as thinking I was poor and realizing, whoa, my dad actually has a lot of money now. Well, he still won't spend it because he still hasn't learned the healthy connection to money. So how am I the way I am and why do I do it? My goal is to teach everybody a healthier connection to their money. That doesn't mean I can always make them more money. We're going to try to understand why we earn it, how we earn it, do we feel guilt, shame, or pride around it, and how are we spending it and when are we spending it? Now, that's where the rest of you guys as supporting members of the advisory team comes in because you need a good insurance advisor, you need a good financial advisor, you need a good banker and attorney and other folks. But it all starts with that conversation of how do I feel about earning money? Is it pride or guilt? And to me, I love talking about it because I live it. And so that's a long answer to get to that point, but that's who I am. And so it wasn't learned, it was experienced.
Wow. Love that. Absolutely love that. It's one of the things you said that kind of reminded me of myself. Early in my career, coming out, you're a financial advisor now. Okay. But you had to act that way. And then did not work well for me. Yep. I didn't know what that person was. And then I was like, everyone's like, you just need to be yourself. And that's when you just be yourself. And, it's a relationship business. Everything we do is about relationships. And it's about, making friends. And our clients want to be friends for life. With you guys, friends for life. And when you think about it that way, it's, the money and all the other successes comes naturally.
I think that's such a powerful statement, right? Stop trying to be what other people told you should be. Just be who you are. And by the way, you're probably going to fail. So is the person who was trying to be somebody else, right? This is the, as we were kind of prepping for the show together and talking, one of the questions you were bringing up was, what are some things that you would recommend to people, right? Like business success tips. To me, it's mindset. And your question was, give me 3 tips: mindset, mindset, and mindset. And what do I mean by that? 1, you've got to have the mindset that you're going to fail. Because the moment you believe otherwise, you're going to be sorely disappointed when failure happens. Failure is part of the process. It's part of the growth, but it's going to happen. 2, you have to have the mindset that you're going to get there, because any profession sucks when you see a wall in front of you and you don't know how to get around it. You're going to have to figure out a way around it. Knowing that you can is the mindset, and ultimately you will. The third part of mindset is stop taking somebody else's mindset. Stop replicating what they believe success looks like, or opportunity looks like, or anything. Keep it an original mindset, because if you stay focused that you're going to fail, and you will, and focus that you're going to succeed, and you will, and stop trying to take somebody else's opinions. You can take their information and insight, but don't be them. Whew, that pressure comes off instantly. The first time I failed, it was expected. The first time I succeeded, it was expected. And the first time it doesn't look like my competitor, that's the win. I wasn't supposed to be my competitor. I was supposed to be me. And so that's a trifecta of fun right there.
Wow.
Love that.
Dude, I could literally listen to this all day long. Like this is this is gold. I will ask you this though. Share with us a failure, you know, because I know you're a pretty candid guy. Like you're not afraid to share, like, hey, this is what happened, but this is how I responded, because I agree with you. Your mindset is everything. It's not necessarily the failure. Expect that failures are going to come up, but how you respond to that failure and the action that you take to learn from that experience and you know, pivot if you have to, or change something up if you have to, whatever you need to do to learn from that experience. Share with us, Matt, a specific experience that you've had, because I think stories are so powerful.
Yeah, happy to share it. So I am candid because I think, why not? Here's where I was. I'm year 4 into my business. Year 3 of my business. Year 1, we bought an existing practice, small accounting practice. Year 2, we doubled it. Year 3, we doubled that number. At the end of year 3, I looked up and I was like, whoa, I failed. And people outside are like, well, your business is 3-4 times it was when you started. You're making more money than you've ever made. Your clients are happy. What do you mean you failed? I look at my kids' faces and my wife's face, and I realize I haven't been around for them. Well, of course, that's a pretty common thing we justify by growing a business. Well, honey, how can I be home? I've got to make money. I use the word I have to. We depend on it. That's bull. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to depend on it. I chose to. And so when I'm not going to give you a client failure, I'm giving you a personal failure. I failed in recognizing what the most important part of why I was growing this business was. So we pivoted a couple months back. That's when we switched to a much more transparent model and a focus towards more consulting on profit for our clients and less compliance. I am a great tax compliance shop, but do not hire me to be a tax compliance shop. Because when all I do is tax returns, I miss my family. And with all due respect to people listening, your family will never be more important than my family. It can be just as important, but will never be more important. And I made the fatal flaw of expecting that by taking care of other people and making them more money, my family would be better off for it. That isn't necessarily the case. So what's the pivot? I have literally, with my business partner, shifted our model 180 degrees. We will lose clients for it. And I'm smiling all the way to the bank, because whether I make more money or less money, I'm going to get home to see my family more often. I'm going to go to the soccer games and those dance recitals and whatever it is I want to do. And so my failure was that I convinced myself that I was doing it the right way. The same way that nobody challenges my clients until I come in the room, nobody challenged me until my kid looked up and said, Dad, get off your cell phone. You haven't read me a bedtime story in months. Well, that sucks. So that's my pivot is I'm going to own it. I'm not going to justify it. Justifying it just prolongs the pain. I'm going to fix the pain point, which is get my butt out of the office, not in the office. I'm not going to respond to every email timely. That's going to piss people off. Okay. That's what happens. And I'm going to change the way that I do business. And that's going to rub people wrong and rub people right. And whatever the impact of it is, that's okay, because I've looked at my family board of directors and found out who matters most, and their vote has more weight than anybody else. Wow. And so that's my mistake, but that's also my optimism of it's not over till it's over, and there's plenty of time to fix it as long as I'm aware of that it was an issue.
Matt, that is so powerful. I'm going to tell you one thing right now. Your kids are going to watch this video someday. And I'm going to try really hard, because I have kids too, not to get emotional about this, but they're going to watch this. They're going to be really proud.
I appreciate you saying that. That's the goal. I think as parents, that's the goal. It's not my kid could care less how much is in my bank account. He could care how much time I'm spending with him. Yep.
Amen to that.
That's awesome stuff, guys.
Devin?
No, it's no, Matt, I think it's I could sit here and talk 3 more hours and just keep talking. This is awesome. You know, we always like to kind of end with a final question, and we've almost kind of went over this today, but let's say 10 years from now, we're looking back. It's 10 years from now, and you're looking back. What's your legacy? You as a person, like, what do you want to look back? How do you want people to see you 10 years from now?
I love that question, but I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to switch it up on you. So I'm going to push even further than 10 years. It's a real story. I used to work with an accountant. Unfortunately, she passed away. She got sick, and very sudden passing. And a couple of us went to her funeral, and I show up and somebody gets up and gives a eulogy. I didn't know her that well. I didn't know who was eulogizing her. It turns out this person walks up onto the stage and he says, hey, here's my name. Here's who I am. This person was my accountant. And you might be wondering why I'm eulogizing my accountant. Because 25 years ago, I remember exactly where I was when we had, he named it, a very specific conversation. And that conversation changed the course of my life. It changed how I pivoted my business, how I looked at my family, how I looked at everything. So he's like, when I found out that the CPA died, we were in an amusement park. We got on the first flight out of Florida and came back to Baltimore because I would never miss this for her kids. Because what she did for me made the life possible for my kids. In their moment of need, I'm going to be there for her kids. And so it's not a story about me and where I see my legacy. It's a story for all of us. Wow. If the impact we can make on our clients goes from something that's from transactional to transformational, then we've succeeded. That's the legacy I want. It's not one specific thing. Is that there's somebody who would be willing to leave their vacation to come and eulogize me, not because I saved them a few dollars in taxes, but because I saved their life in a way they didn't know needed saving. That's the legacy I'm aiming for, and it will happen because I've got the mindset.
I got chills. That's amazing. I mean, I think I think we can all strive to want that. That's awesome.
Matt, we have to have you back.
Again, happy to be back.
This was such an awesome experience, and it just reinforces for me personally why I do this is because I get to interact with people like you. And it is an honor and it's a blessing to have that opportunity because, where else would I ever have? And also, by the way, to get it out to other people and for this to be inspiring. There might be one person whose life is impacted in a positive way by this show. And listen, we're not this massive Joe Rogan podcast.
No.
But you know what? If we can make an impact one person at a time and one subscriber at a time and something resonates with somebody, I'll feel like we made a difference. And Matt, today, I will guarantee you this. There's somebody out there who's going to watch this or listen to this, and you're going to make a huge impact on them in their business and in their lives. And for that, we thank you. We thank you. And you lived up to everything that Devin had said you would be. And we're really grateful to have you on the show. And listen, for anybody out there who is listening and watching, if you feel like you got value from the show today, please consider subscribing and support our mission and our purpose and what we're trying to do and getting the message out there, and share this with your friends, your business colleagues, anyone who you feel that there would be some value. We would greatly appreciate that. And guys, you guys said it all today. It was, we definitely want to do this again. So I thank both of you, Devin, Matt, thank you so much. And everyone stay tuned for some more future hot topics on the Trusted Advisor Show. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.